Hello everyone, I'm Mithra, and I just got done doing a 5-part video series, which was originally meant to be a 3-part video series, but it went long. I talked about the Gambler's Chest in 1.6 in the first video, Campaigns of Death in the second video, and then over the course of the next 3 videos for the 5-part thing, it was just Wave 4 stuff. It was super fun. It seems like a lot of people enjoyed it. I got a lot of comments, and normally how I do content for my videos is I usually do an intro in the beginning of each episode, and then I talk about comments from the last episode. This 5-part video thing was a bulk recording, and I never usually do bulk recordings. So it was done over the course of 2 days because it kept running way longer than I thought it would be. And I didn't have any stopping points in there and no way to respond to comments in between each video, which is not something I normally do. But I still do want to respond to a whole bunch of comments, and there have been a lot. Sometimes I don't think I make my point exactly clear. And people have pointed this out. Sometimes I say things which my meaning is correct. It's just that I said it not in a perfect, precise way. My meaning got across. The intent of what the words I said was not perfect, but my intentions got across. But the way I said it could be confusing or not perfect. And I've cleared that up in some of the comments. But not everybody comments, and not everybody wants to read comments, and I've said comments a lot. One more time, I will now say comments one more time. So if you do reply on a video, and I highly encourage everybody to respond and put as much as they want to say on all the videos, and I will try to respond to everybody, it may appear in a video. So, either mention that in your comment. When you say it, you're like, don't use this as an example, or don't use this as a comment in your video. So then I won't do that. So, but just throwing that out there. There's a chance. That's just how I do things. I could stop if people don't like it. I'll stop. But anyway, so there are a ton of comments, and I do want to get them across because there are some things which I could have expressed better. Some things I omitted just because there wasn't any information on it, and people then, another thing is people are free to interpret anything the way they want to. I'm not saying that anyone's right or wrong. It's likely that I'm wrong. I just said a whole bunch of stuff based only on his updates and some comments that he's made, obviously, but, it's free to interpretation. And I could 100% be wrong on things. I'm only going on what I feel his intended message was, just the same exact way it's a back and forth from what I said, and people thought that my message was muddled. It's the same thing when I read an update. You're getting my interpretation of it, which could be wrong, and I 100% accept that. In fact, that's why I always like to respond to comments in my videos, because I am fully open and aware of other people's interpretations, how I might be wrong, and that's why I love comments, because it opens a dialogue and a discussion and a debate on things, which is great, and that's what I love about the Kingdom Death community and all these things. I've asked, since I put up the videos, I've tried to gather more information from, like the Discord and Facebook communities and Reddits and the Kickstarter community to see how other people also interpret it, and then I'll use also all these comments that I've gotten, and then I'm going to clear that up. So I've got here a pencil and a notepad, and we're going to make notes, and I'm going to look over everyone's comments. I'm going to clear things up, and then we're going to look at everything that people said that I misinterpreted, and we'll go back over all these things. And like I said, I did omit things on purpose just because there hasn't been any information on it, but because I omitted it and didn't mention it in, my in the video, it made some of the things I was saying, because I know they exist. I didn't draw attention to it, but I still used it like subconsciously as in fact for me, which would have cleared up some of these comments. And that's 100% on me. I should have been more thorough. Like I said, sometimes just things get lost in translation. So, with that said, this will be more cut up. It's not going to be a long form response. It will be a very long free form response. People do seem to really enjoy that, the reactionary videos and things. Also, as I do these comments, I'll write them down. I'm not going to go over every single one, but the big long ones and the ones that are worthy of discussion. And then I'll go into that and I'll make notes of everything we need to talk about. And then I'll go through. It'll be perfect. So let me just switch over to it. All right. So here we go. This is the first video. This is the 1.6 Gambler's Chest video. So scout thing. Yep, I'm going to use the scout thing in a future video. Of course, I think scouts are awesome. I will definitely be using it. Let's see. Someone said they'll have to check this out later, which is fine. Okay. Let's hit the read more on this. Yep, here's a lot. This is a long one. Good to hear the excitement of 1.6 is shared. And yeah, I am very excited about 1.6 and all the way forward stuff. I know sometimes it might have sounded like I was being very negative on it. Sure, yeah, I get that. It does sound like I was being negative, but I wasn't. That wasn't my intent to be negative. It was just to, it's constructive criticism, or however you want to say. I mean, I know some people think constructive criticism is just like negative, but it wasn't negative. There are parts of it which I am negative on, mostly on the pricing and stuff, but that's just what it is. It's changing a lot more than people think. Perfect resources coming in 1.6 are similar to the Crimson Crocodile, and they only come from level 3s, which seems great. How much monster basic resource decks are being reprinted in that card pack? Yeah, I'm also interested to see how in the 1.6 if those perfect resources are strange resources or monster basic. So if you add them to the basic resource deck instead of being a strange resource, because strange resource you never really draw from. You just get them when you're told. Encouraging level 3s rather than a blanket restriction to me seems like a better direction to go. I agree with this. I'm assuming, this is what I mean from Lost. I'm assuming what he means is because the way the philosophy system is working, you are encouraged, you get more CC points for the higher level monsters you fight, and then that encourages you to fight higher monsters, because sometimes with the way it is right now, level 1 monster gives 1 hunt experience, then level 2 plus gives 2 experience. You don't get 3 hunt experience for fighting, or do you get 3 hunt experience? Oh yeah, you do get 3 hunt experience for fighting, or do you? I can't even remember now. I think you only get 2. Anyway, yeah, it's much more, and also level restricting resources is better to go, but I'm sure what he's referring to here with the blanket restriction is with People of the Lantern, where it completely just restricts you out and forces you to fight level 3s only. This way there may also be there wouldn't even be that similar restriction for level 3 in the Gambler's campaign, which I agree. Perfect resources were encouraged late game anyway. Agree with this. Gambler's Chest should also be cool. Well, I expect about the encounters. Yeah, it's not that I'm not excited about the encounters. I'm not excited the way that it's currently pitched. It makes it seem like it's a showdown, which could take a while, but it could be something that's really fast. I did see that they only have like 2 life, so I mean you could kill them in 1 attack. So it could be something that only takes like 5 minutes. That'd be awesome. I would hate... I'm just more worried about it being like a 10-20 minute affair in the middle of a hunt. Then you still need to finish the hunt after that. Yeah, talks about putting it on the board itself, which again, yeah, it's fine. That's probably what most people end up doing. the game as in its current state already takes up a ton of table space with the hunt board, the showdown board, all those other decks being everywhere, all the resource decks being everywhere. If you actually want to keep everything out on the table, it takes up an insane amount. Adding this encounter board would also do it, so you're probably just better off putting the encounter board on top of the actual board and then moving it away. Scouts and Wanderers also seem good. Yep, I agree. I love Scouts and Wanderers. All three of those will be usable in every campaign. Hopefully. So this is something I'm going to talk about, because a lot of people said this, that it might be exclusive to the Gambler's Chest campaign, which it could possibly and might be. But the way I was interpreting it was that it's going to be an advanced Kingdom Death rulebook that comes in the Gambler's Chest with a Gambler's campaign in the advanced Kingdom Death rulebook. Similar to the way that the core game includes the rules, and then People of the Lantern is included in it. And then you continue to use the rulebook even in the other campaigns, even in People of the Stars and People of the Sun. That's how I see this going with the Gambler's Chest. That's why I was saying that it's a completely different system. Or I know they're optional, but I'm saying it completely... They're disconnected from the campaign, even though I think the campaign is just a way to introduce it and make it cleaner the first time you use all these systems at once, rather than, hey, let's read the whole book and now try to throw it into a People of the Lantern campaign by yourself. It's, here's a Gambler's campaign, People of the Dreamer, and this will slowly introduce you to all the new stuff. That way, moving forward, after you're done with it, you'll know how to do it yourself, and you'll understand what you do and don't like. That's how I see it coming. I don't think I expressed that very well. I think I was just saying that, I was saying that the Gambler's Chest would be required for sure for everything moving forward, which I do hope for, as I hope these systems are awesome, but I'll get into it. So, let's see. We guess the Gambler would be similarly available from the Gamblers. Yeah, there's a Gambler event in Lantern Year 15, although it works similar to Lantern although if it works similarly to Lantern campaign, no more innovations after Lantern Year 15 would be a harder choice. So what he's saying here is, if it's like the Watcher and this Gambler event that happens Lantern Year 15, if you could then trigger a special, like, with the Hand or the Kingsman, or the Watcher, you could fight them early. If that's the same thing, you could put yourself in a situation where People of the Lantern becomes level 3 only, and then that would be 15 years of that restriction with no more innovations and stuff, which would be quite crazy. It would be more punishing than what the Watcher currently is, because you can fight the Watcher in level 20 and not be that punished, because you should have all the innovations you want, unless you're me and you never drew Forbidden Dance, even though you were looking for Forbidden Dance for like 6 Lantern Years before that, and you were drawing 4 cards at one time. That's just me. So yeah, if that's the case, where you can challenge the Gambler in Lantern Year 15. Also surprised that the Wanderers being so late. I actually love that the Wanderers are so late, because the end of the game is just hunt, 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 nemesis, hunt, hunt, hunt. There's no story there. It's so bad. It's so dull, the last thing. So I would hope that more stuff makes the last 10 or 15 years of People of the Lantern great. Something there to do. They see like the end of a chain of events. Yeah, they do. It was said in the update. I don't think if I mentioned it, but they do. They add multiple stories. I think 3, he said. So it's when you first encounter them, then something, and then something. Some would come a few earlier. I do eventually mention this in one of the other videos. Yes, there are earlier ones. There's a Lantern Year 3 one. There's some really early ones. Let's see. Collective Cognition listing milestones out to 100 is also intriguing. I agree with that. I didn't really cover it. I'm going to go into that. Make a note of that. Why I didn't mention the... So there's stuff on the timeline that I just glazed over. Mainly being, yes, it shows level 6 monsters on that sheet. Yes, this is also there, that it lists out to 100. Yes, there's the first time the survivors are defeated thing there. I'm going to go over that again, the timeline. I'm writing it down. Timeline speculation, I'll clear this up. Okay, and then there's my responses. Let's see. Yep. I wasn't going to buy the game. Chance. I think everybody, I don't think it's as mandatory, but I think people really should just consider buying the Gambler's Chest as their first expansion. You get a lot of content, even though it's expensive. There seems to be a lot of stuff going in that way. Get through, probably going to wait to get Gambler's Chest only because they screw everything up on the first printing as a rule. Hoping I'm wrong about this. Releasing Gambler's Chest before Campaigns of Death didn't make much sense to me, but I'm sure there's a reason. Still might cave anyways and get the chest. I talked about how I feel about Campaigns of Death being released. So I may have made this not as clear either. I'm going to talk about Campaigns of Death. There's some other stuff I left out. I'll go through it. I'm going to write down campaigns release schedule. There's other stuff in those updates I just didn't include. There's too much to include. I just wanted to talk more about the content, not about speculation. A lot of this stuff, which is again why it might have come off as stuff, being harder to interpret, because it's always hard to forget that when you're talking about things and you're doing a glancery, just like here's a quick glance or here's my review and things. People can review like video game reviews and things. You could review like a 60 to 70 hour game and you could review it in 10 or 15 minutes because the people you're speaking to didn't play it yet, usually. I know there's tons of people who watch reviews even though they play the game and stuff. But you then use your own information to help form your opinion. It's the same thing with here, why I didn't talk about the timeline and why I didn't talk about the release schedule because it's all speculative, but I still had it like doing a subconsciously making me omit things which I didn't intend to, and then it makes me sound, it makes the point get muddled. So I'm going to go over that stuff. But remember, the stuff I'm going to cover now is speculation things. Stuff that I discounted or stuff that other people are speculating on beyond what was actually written in the updates. Sure, it was there. I just passed over it because of bias or because there's just zero information. But I'm going to get into it. This person was saying, I believe that the book is not 1.5 plus the cards. It is just a 1.6 rulebook. If that's the case, that's very interesting. The only reason why I would go again, I would just hope that with the 1.6 update, it also includes stuff for expansions. And more than likely, people are going to want to buy those expansions someday. It would suck for them to buy the 1.6 book and not get all those other 1.6 cards and then have to buy the 1.6 pack. That sucks. So I would really hope that the 1.6 that he's putting up on the store is really just 1.5 with 1.6 legendary card pack just in the box. Or just everything is included in the 1.6 card pack. All the expansion cards, all that stuff. Why not include them? Don't separate out. Don't say I'm going to put 1.6, but I'm not going to include the Lonely Tree. I'm not going to include the Lonely Tree card fixes. Dung Beetle Knight card fixes. The Lion Knight card fixes. The Sunstalker resource fixes. Things like that. Just give them to everybody in the 1.6 core. That would suck. That was my thing on this. So if I said that wrong and I said I don't think that it's actually, I don't know what it was I exactly said, but if it came off as I was saying that it won't be that, or I hope it's not that, more clearly what I meant to say was, if it really is a true reprint and it doesn't just have if it's not just 1.5 and it's not just a card pack inside the box, then I hope he doesn't exclude the expansion stuff, because that would suck. That's what I meant to say. I fully believe that, yeah, that's cool. If it really is a 1.6 update, I don't know what would be in the 1.6 rules changes. Nothing has shown that actual rules are changing from the book themselves. If anything, they're just these stickers. Like White Speaker for the Colt Knife came with a sticker that you just put inside your book, and then that's how you get the Colt Knife. Same thing with the Twilight Knight. Alice in the Twilight Night, to get the cloak and the lantern, I think, you just kind of put the sticker in the book, and then it just changes those specific events. Yes, I would much rather if the white box stuff is now considered core, then yeah, if he's updating the actual book to include those stickers so they're not just stickers, cool. Also makes sense as to why he said if you don't need to buy the 1.6 book if you just already own 1.5. So that's cool. It seems like a long way to go to get entirely new books printed, and doesn't seem in character for him at all to fix a couple lines in the book and have a whole new book reprinted. Just from the fact it took him this long just to fix like AI cards. Doesn't seem like that's the route he would go. It seems like it would much rather him just, here's 1.5 and the stuff's included and now I'm calling it 1.6. But I could be 100% wrong. He could actually do that. So and the same thing here. Why is 1.6 hardcover rulebook? This is probably just bad artwork. Who knows? So that's the first video. Let me open up the comments for the second video. Here's comments from the second video, Campaigns of Death specific video. So this person's asking, so what if they have the core game, they pledge for the Gambler's Chest, but do not own or plan to own any 1.0 expansions? See, so when I was saying in the Gambler's Chest, or in the Campaigns of Death video, I was saying Campaigns of Death would still hold value to people who just had core Gambler's Chest, and then I honestly think you really should consider getting Campaigns of Death, even if you just own the core game. So, yes, if I'm not mistaken, you're still recommending getting Campaigns of Death for new covers, but since 1.0 expansions haven't been available, you give up on getting them, so I'm kind of confused with Campaigns of Death being the second most important expansion. So this is just my opinion, and as I was responding to this person, I went back over it, and I wrote a huge thing out. So this is pretty much how I feel. So I'm not going to go over Campaigns of Death again for this particular reason. I'm just going to read the response I gave here. So assuming that you have 1.5, or have the 1.5 upgrade pack, it says because 1.5 allows you to have access to the post-watcher content. So assuming you have post-watcher content, I don't know if you just have 1.0 in the Gambler's Chest, which I'm thinking is what he said here. Oh no, he doesn't own any 1.0 expansions. Yeah, because that's true. No expansions are currently 1.5. Even if you buy them in the store now, even after a reprint, they're still just 1.0. Except for the Lion Knight now includes the Roll Survivors. So, the strain system is a huge part of that. It will allow you to mix the Gambler's Chest, because this is confirmed, mix the Gambler's Chest with the core and the other ways outside of playing People of the Dream or People of the Lantern. So even if you just own core and then you get the Gambler's Chest, you can implement these things yourself just the same exact way you do the normal expansions now. You just include them as a quarry. But I'm assuming that because Crimson Croc is a prologue, it's like the White Lion then? See, because currently all the expansions have a introduction event, except for, or all the quarries and everything have introduction events, except for except for White Lion, because White Lion's a prologue. There's no like introduction event to it. So if you were to use the Crimson Croc as your prologue, you would just add White Lion and there'd be no event to it. So I'm assuming what Campaigns of Death does, since he said Campaigns of Death will future-proof the Gambler's Chest. So what I'm assuming that means is it's going to give the Crimson Croc a story event. So you'd want Campaigns of Death to get that story event. That way you could use White Lion as your prologue, and then introduce Crimson Croc with some kind of story event. The other thing with Campaigns of Death is... maybe I should just go over this. Okay, you know what? I'm going to talk about Gambler's Chest. I'm going to talk about Campaigns of Death one more time. showing things that I excluded originally. But the main thing with why I'd still say you'd want to get Campaigns of Death is I thought it was only, for one, I only thought it was $125 still. Apparently it's $175. I was told that it went up to $175. I didn't know that. I thought it was still $125. I still think $175 might. Now it gets a little bit iffy. I thought $125 was perfect. Anyway, so even if you don't, even Campaigns of Death includes so much stuff. So you get the strain system that will allow you to put all the Gambler's Chest stuff into that. The other thing that's weird is like another thing that's weird. Another example of content being in a campaign that's restrictive without having an introductory event or any kind of thing is People of Stars has the Tyrant, but you can't you can it has stuff for you to use the Dragon King as a quarry, but you can't use the Tyrant as a nemesis. And I would hope Campaigns of Death fixes that as well, where you could actually use the Tyrant as a nemesis. But I'm hoping that what Campaigns of Death will do to future-proof the Gambler's Chest is will add a way for you to get Atlas as a nemesis outside of its event. But you know what? Who knows? Atlas probably has story events surrounding him that you could just use and put in any campaign you wanted. The other thing would be ways of getting the God Hand to replace the Goldsmoke Knight, or ways of getting the Gambler to replace Watcher. I don't know if you'd be able to do. It seems odd with the core monsters. I doubt you'd be able to play them intermixing. But if you would need the Gambler's Chest or the Campaigns of Death to do that, because the Gambler's Chest is not going to give him its own thing. It's going to be just that campaign. So that's the interactions between Campaigns of Death and the Gambler's Chest. So if you did just really back this new 1.5 Kickstarter and then got the Gambler's Chest, which, because most pledges included it, again, I went over this in the video before, you could just buy 1.5 in the Kickstarter for $200 and then Gambler's Chest for $125, making the pledge $350 or $325, I forget what it was now, but so I know I said you get it for free, but it's not really for free. It's an equivalent thing. It's like BOGO. It's like buy one, get one. You get them for the equivalent price. It's the same mathematically. It doesn't make them free. You could have bought in 1.5 for $200 and then added the Gambler's Chest for $125 in the backer kit, or you could have just backed for $350 and got them both, which is the same price as 1.5 core on the shop. So I went over this in the other video. Again, that's one thing as to why, with like I said, with the reaction stuff, I'm newer to it. That was something I caught in like the third video. I was like, oh, you know what? I probably should have said this differently as I was editing it. I noticed that. So let's get back to what else it adds. So Campaigns of Death also adds a whole bunch of minis. So if you're just someone who buys like those naked bundles and things like that, you're getting a lot of value for those minis. You're getting like Ancient Butcher, Beetle Baron, Vocal Spidicules, Devil Slenderman, 4 sets, is it, of intimacy couples? I think it's 4 sets of intimacy couple survivors. Not 4 sets. 2 sets of 2 survivors, which would be 4, I think, is what it is. Or is it just 1? Is it just the People of the Stars intimacy couple? I forget now, but either way, you're getting a lot of survivors too. You're also getting Infant Sunstalker, Verdant Knight, and is that it? Either way, that's like 9 minis. Each of those, which may or may not have decks for them. Verdant Knight probably has its... Ancient Butcher definitely does. So even if you back just Campaigns of Death by itself, you're getting Ancient Butcher, which will probably use the Butcher's deck, but he is a new monster that, one, will have his own campaign in Campaigns of Death, so that is a new campaign you're getting, and he also can be used as a finale. So you're getting two things for him. One to use him as a core, and one to use him as a finale for the strain system. And he's probably only going to use the Butcher's deck. So the Butcher comes with the core, therefore you are getting new content in Campaigns of Death without any 1.0 expansions. Then, like I said, mostly, if you like the minis, you're getting a good deal on all those minis with Vernon Knight, Beetle Baron, all those other things. Plus you're getting 5-year campaigns. I know I said it here. You're getting the Grindhouse campaign, which might be Manhuntery. Maybe it ends with you fighting the Manhunter. I don't know. But if it doesn't, you're getting a 5-year campaign. And you're getting People of the Gloom, which is also another 5-year campaign, but that's with the Slenderman. Um, so yeah, I guess I was wrong. I guess it's 175. You get the ability to make custom campaigns. You get an Ancient Butcher. You get one full 30-year campaign and one 5-year campaign. And then you also get all those minis. The Naked Bundles, which are usually 4 minis, go for around 100. So if you look at the Naked Bundles, those are just the King, the Scribe, and then like 2, I don't even know what they are. Oh, to 2 Hunters, Great Hunters. That's like $100. And that's just 4 minis. You're getting like 8 minis in this Campaigns of Death, plus a book, plus a whole bunch of cards and new gear and all that stuff. Yeah, those don't even provide content. Echoes are 4 survivors and 4 fighting hearts, so those are around $60 by themselves. And Slenderman and Lonely Tree are about $30, and those are the easiest to get expansions. That's why I included them on there. Those are the ones that are usually always, if you could get a 1.0 expansion, it's usually these two. So those are about 30. Add those to the equivalent of a Nemesis Showdown to the current game, much like so Ancient Butcher, Devil's Thunderman, Infant Sunstalker, which will be a Quarry, Vitter Spinculus, all these other things. 6 Nemesises. It's like it's still worth it, even if you just want to paint some minis, get a new campaign, get a new finale, get a new core, and then not only that, eventually you'll probably the campaigns, they're the expansions that are highlighted in Campaigns of Death are the good ones. It's I know all of them are in there, but I meant People of the Bloom and the Green Knight will be the hardest one, because the Green Armor requires like 7 different expansions or 9 different expansions. So that one, yeah. But Dung Beetle Knight is a good expansion. So then, let's say you find a way to get Dung Beetle Knight for $45, right? Even with that one expansion, you're now adding all kinds of new stuff to the core game, even, because it showed in there the calcified gear. Like, there was a Bone Club in there and a spear that are just from the original game. I forget well, who knows? But either way, and if he really is going to delay it to future-proof the Gambler's Chest, you might get more calcified stuff like Croc stuff. You might get Crimson Croc calcified stuff, or Smog Stalkers. You could buy one expansion. So let's say you just bought Campaigns of Death just for the Ancient Butcher and stuff, and then so if you cut out the price of Ancient, whatever you feel a Nemesis encounter would be, plus some slight new gear, plus the strain system, which, like I said, Echoes is $60, and that's all you're getting is just strain system and fighting arts, which is pretty much what this is. So let's say you value that at like $100, a new campaign, the Ancient Butcher, a whole bunch of just minis, and then some cards and a new rulebook. Let's say you value that $100. Would you then value, every time you buy 1.0 expansion, you're like doubling the value of that expansion because you pre-bought Campaigns of Death? Either way, people can disagree. Like I said, so that was just my thinking when I said that. Now, a lot of people, I understand that. There's also people who don't have Kingdom Death and they play on Tabletop Simulator. There's also people who don't buy Kingdom Death because it's super expensive and they would rather a miniless version of it and stuff like that. So it's hard to evaluate what the value of things are because I have a bias. Because I also value the minis. You know what I mean? I like painting them. I like putting them together. I like using the actual board. I prefer playing the real game over Tabletop Simulator. I mean, in the same amount of time it's taken me to do this entire campaign for Season 1, I could have done like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 if I would have just done recording just like this with Tabletop Simulator. So that's why it's hard to do this freeform content where it's just my thoughts. And I understand that the things I say, they have subtle bias. It's impossible for me to remove that bias. But I think the minis hold value. But there are plenty of people who would look at the Echoes here and say, oh man, that's not worth $60. And I totally get that. Even I, who like painting the minis, don't think it's worth the $60. These minis are awesome. This is next one I'm going to start painting, since I have now decided to actually start painting. I know when I originally reviewed all the white boxes, I said I'm never going to use them because the scale's all messed up, but I'm out of minis to paint, so I'm on to those now, to painting those. Oh wow, I even said this in my reply. So granted, I am someone who finds value in the minis and painting them. So I would ask yourself, when you approach campaigns of death, ask yourself if you enjoy minis. Those minis are worth something. You have to decide what they're worth. So I still think Campaigns of Death is valuable, just because if you have Gambler's Chest, it will be very helpful to actually be able to implement that stuff outside of the People of the Dreamer campaign. So, let's move on. I personally bought 1.5. My first Black Friday. I personally blah, blah, blah. I also didn't back any of Wave 4 because I'm not really sure which expansions would be worth it. Yes. So I backed a lot of the Wave 4 stuff up front, but not a whole bunch. I also built towards it. Remember, it's been 4 years now since this campaign started, and I've had 4 Black Fridays. That means for me to evaluate what to buy. So I know when I was going over Wave 4, I said, I bought this. But I only bought 3 of Wave 4 stuff when the campaign first launched. One of which was Campaigns of Death, which I did disclose, say I did get it for the $40, but that's because I saw the value in it, even as a book itself, for me personally, because I knew I had Dung Beetle Knight and Gorm and stuff. So I knew there'd be something for me in it, even when it was just in the book form. So that was regardless of scope creep, and I was open about the price I paid, but I tried to really act upon it without being biased, and I really do feel, even if it's an $175, you have to evaluate those minis at a price you're worth paying. But anyway, let's see. Here's a really long one. So this person also has a blog of Kingdom Death. Oh yeah. So this person feels I might have misled people, saying that they need to buy Kingdom Death Monster 1.6 for $350. Plus the Gambler's Chest for $350 to enjoy the core game. If I said that, I don't know what I was thinking. If I actually did say that, obviously, I enjoy the core game a whole bunch. I'm recording an entire season of it. I started my channel based around it. So obviously, I feel the core game has value. So if I actually did say that you cannot enjoy Kingdom Death without the Gambler's Chest, which I don't think I did. But if I did say that, then that person is crazy and that person is wrong. I don't know why I would ever say such a thing, but if I did say that, that's wrong. What I meant to say was it's a awkward position because the Gambler's Chest might be necessary for future expansions. I also think that's a good and a bad thing. I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it's gotten to a point now where if the Gambler's Chest is bad, a lot of good faith that Poots has built up might start to erode. There's some people who are already feeling those things because of the scope creep, and it's been a long time and he's delivered nothing. So for people who were part of the original 1.0 Kickstarter, that was like 7 or 8 years ago. So aside from getting Gold Smoke Knight, those people have gotten nothing in 8 years. 7 or 8 years. If they're not buying the vignettes and things. And that is eroding people. And there's a large amount of people who do that. It's an awkward situation that the Gambler's Chest was pushed so hard when a lot of people might not be interested in a lot of its content. Some people may just like Kingdom Death for what it is. They might not be interested in the patterns, in the scouts, in the encounters, in the philosophies, but they're willing to give it a chance and forgive now because of goodwill and things. But if the Gambler's Chest turns out to be bad and all those systems are not well written and don't integrate well outside of People of the Dreamer, and People of the Dreamer is much the same as People of the Lantern. Some people don't. I personally love People of the Lantern, not because not that I don't like the other 2 expansions. People of the Stars, I enjoyed People of the Stars. People of the Stars was very fun. I just don't think I would use it to replay the game with. Those survivors are really powerful, and it's just a fun. I think it's great. I think and it's a good story and everything. I think People of the Stars is absolutely great. I just don't think it's as replayable as People of the Lantern. And that is mostly because People of the Lantern you can shape to how you want it. With People of the Stars you can't shape it to how you want it. Nothing against People of the Stars or whatever. But if People of the Dreamer comes much like People of the Stars, where it's very not malleable and doesn't work with Campaigns of Death, like if People of the Lantern is what Campaigns of Death focuses on, and by that I mean if Campaigns of Death assumes you're playing People of the Lantern, or it's building you to play a very malleable story with unique story events based on the strain cards you draw. Because remember, when you're just drawing cards at random, things might not line up narratively, but the game will do its best. And if all those things end up being weird, this price point and situation here is going to be very awkward. That's why I say it's a double-edged sword. So either it's going to be bad and people will then be happy that the Wave 4 expansions are back to normal and just back to just plug and play. Here you go. Here's some just stuff that's not super well thought out, and here's just 12 expansions or 16 expansions or whatever. And it's just back to the regular Kingdom of Death formula. Then they'll be fine. But then it will, it's like, why did this take 6 years to come out if it's literally just the same exact thing you released 7 years ago? You know what I mean? And then the double-edged sword is Gambler's Chest is awesome. If Gambler's Chest is awesome, and then moving forward all the way forward, have scouts, have philosophies, and now you've created the situation where that's what I was saying. You might need to buy the Gambler's Chest just to get the core game with Ark Survivors, all the story events and everything. So if what I said sounded misleading, I apologize. I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean to say that Gambler's Chest is a must. I meant to look at it as though it may be that. So, the thing is, if he had not released these add-ons, the game's stealth still remains top-notch. I 100% agree with that. Even his Wave 4 pitches are still based on the original, because you can tell when he pitched stuff, they were adding fighting arts, no strains, none of that stuff was even said. So people who bought 1.4 game are already enjoying it, yes. I've started my channel around it. Expansions do not have that level of synergy that will be available in Campaigns of Death. Hopefully they do, but they're still great, enjoyable mostly, and replayable. People do not need the Gambler's Chest to enjoy the core game. If I said that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. And they do not need Campaigns of Death. Yes. If I said those things, I don't know why I would, because obviously I enjoy the game. I've created entire videos around it. If I said that, that's weird. I was looking at an enclosed thing here. I wasn't looking at it as, let's review Kingdom Death in general. The whole thing. Here's some videos on the future of Kingdom Death. Wave 4 and Wave 3. Meaning that I wasn't even taking into account any of the stuff prior to that. Besides Gold Smoke Knight, because that's 1.5 and that has issues that are being replaced by these other finales and things. But I never even I don't even think I mentioned many of the other old campaigns and how they would work with the stuff when I wasn't talking about Campaigns of Death. So, yes, they are super expensive for newcomers. That's what I'm saying. That's what I meant. Like, right now so it goes. You get 1.5, and then people say like you should get Gorm, and what, like the Dragon King, Sunstalker, and Dung Beetle Knight. Those are like the big four everyone always suggests. Yeah, that's great because they're low price. But if it gets to a point where people are like, oh, if you're going to get into Kingdom Death, you should really look into getting the Gambler's Chest first and foremost. That kind of sucks. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of sucks. And I don't say you should always take everyone's opinion. You can play the game however it is you want, but just saying that kind of sucks. Gambler's Chest won't make it much better. I would hope that the Gambler's Chest does make it a lot better. It's been delayed. I mean, we've got nothing for 4 years because of this Gambler's Chest. That was one of the other things. The Gambler's Chest was originally just a stretch goal box. Like most other Kickstarters. You just get narrative sculpts, and then there's some other stuff in there thrown in. It was just a stretch goal box. Now it's like this whole new game, pretty much. He even called it basically a new game. I agree. This is the other thing. What he says right here, it's a must-have add-on for loyal fans who have played the game for years. That I totally agree with. They've tried everything, beat everything at least 2 or 3 times. That's, yes. So this where subconscious bias might have come in by me, and I tried to eliminate it, but it's really hard. Then we had a really long conversation because I tried to, let's see this one. So that's that opinion. Do we know if the Ark survivors are going to be the new normal? No, I don't know that. I'm going to talk about that, and we're going to pull up more stuff. So we're going to look at Ark survivors and Gambler's Chest again, and I'll talk about why I have my opinions based on that. Yes, I could have gone in a little hard on the Gambler's Chest and Ark survivors, but it comes down, yes, to my impression that Ark survivors were a one-off, and I'm going to go back, we're going to look at that again. I figured they would be Gambler specific. Basically what it would be to turn into if they put an extra 6 months of focusing on something like Constellations. Yes, Constellations are people of the stars. Now, I assume they were a one-off mostly because they didn't use fighting arts, and it would be weird to have all those strains and echoes packs if they couldn't be used long-term. Yes, I agree with that. It is awkward. And all the Wave 4 pitches also continually add fighting arts and stuff. The Wave 4 expansion pitches don't sound like the philosophy system is even a thing. Probably because he pitched them before he was done. So the main thing with the Gambler's Chest here is it should have just been a stretch goal box, which is what it was supposed to be. These other systems should have been something that you in Abyssal Woods or something else. Inverted Mountain, something that was paving the way to your next Kickstarter. It's a really weird thing. I can't even think of... It's hard to give examples of things. I don't know. I've never seen something like this where you pitch at one point, you pitch a game, you pitch an update to it, and you pitch a whole bunch of expansions to it. Then you release the game without any of the expansions or any of the updates. Then you decide to release the updates. And then you release expansions without those updates. It feels weird. What you should have been, here's the game, here's an expansion, now let's fix all the bugs all at once. And we'll fix everything later. Or, like I said with Campaigns of Death, I really would have hoped that First Hero would have come out. First Hero and Campaigns of Death target content that's on the market right now. That's the target. They don't affect future content. They future-proof the stuff that's coming out. So if you just establish that system, get it in place, then whenever you release more, you just release the stuff that feeds into that system. And the system's already designed. It's so weird to me that you would release the 1.5 system, release stuff that works for the 1.5 system, then release the system that puts all the 1.5 stuff together and the stuff you just released prior makes it work together. And then you release more stuff that's based on the old system that you just fixed with Gambler's Chest and Campaigns of Death that now needs to refeed into Campaigns of Death. It's so weird. So yeah, that is weird if those things become the new norm. which is something that could happen. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's a weird situation. I can't even think of a situation like I can't. It's hard to think of a situation. I don't know. Well, I'll try to think of a generic one. Let's say that a video game comes out like a World of Warcraft, like a MMO, right? And they announce an expansion for it, right? And they say, all right, we're gonna have a patch that tweaks all the original content leading into these new expansions, and then makes the new expansion and the old content work together. We're gonna release that patch before the new content comes out. That's normal. That's how you do it, right? And then they release a new class or something, and then it all works. This is like you have the old game. You say, all right, well, all the new classes and things, they need to be tweaked and everything, and they're all going to work with the new class that comes out. So what we're going to do is we're going to release the new class. Then the new class is going to be, either overpowered or underpowered, but then after that, then we'll patch the old stuff to make it work with the new stuff, and then you could be like, oh, this is how the new stuff was supposed to work. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just, you have the game already as it is, it's already out, people are playing it, put out the patch, you fix it now. Now the new game, now everyone's like, okay, then the expansion comes out and everything, it's all lined up, it's all integrated, you've got your nerfs and everything all out of the way, all that stuff out of the way, which is kind of what he's doing with the 1.6 update, but it's just so weird. It's just weird. Because there's a chance that the Wave 4 stuff might be for 1.5. But I'll show you the other thing. I'll talk about it some more. So this it feels like the Campaigns of Death ends up feeling better if you start to think of the assumption that the Ark Survivors are a one-off. I agree. If you're working under the assumption that the Campaigns of Death, or that Ark Survivors are tied like People of the Stars and Constellations and all those things, and I have no problem with those expansions. I think they're great for what they are. So if Ark Survivors happen to just be tied to the People of the Dreamer and won't work anywhere else, then yeah, Campaigns of Death will be great, because then it will integrate them into the new game, or whatever, or it won't. And all it will take is just Croc and stuff. So, yeah. Let's see. Okay. I'm trying to see. Nothing there. Okay, so let's open up the next video's comments. This is the part 1 of the Wave 4 stuff, which was part 2.5. As this person said, I ended up doing a part 6.6. Yeah, I did say this. It's without a budget. This Kickstarter is amazing. But the person was asking me what Tom was. Asked me to do a tier list. Maybe I'll do a tier list. Yes. So with this, when I said that there was rules mistakes, or those demos don't represent what content you're actually getting and things. Yeah, the Frogdog one, I don't think had any problems. The Frogdog one, yeah, so I guess that was a dev. He wasn't just a volunteer. I know that sometimes the people who do Gen Con stuff are volunteers. Oops, I don't want to reply. So this one doesn't have a read more. Okay. Yes, that is also very ridiculous of me. The irony that I thought I could do it all in one video. I have gone back and fixed this. The spoilers, I added spoiler tags to all my videos. I'll put a spoiler tag probably on this one too. Okay, so let's see what's here. Yes, the Gambler's Chest is entirely optional or Gambler campaign specific. That is true. Everything in there is optional and Gambler's, but I don't know if it is Gambler's campaign specific. I don't know. It could be, it might not be. It adds a whole new campaign that uses the content. Yes, same as... Yes. Keep on about how Arc Survivors being in other campaigns. How would they be different from People of the Stars and People of the Sun? People of the Stars and People of the Sun, it wouldn't be very different than People of the Stars and People of the Sun. It just looks much better. Yeah, those are also campaigns separate and not seen outside of the... Yeah, I don't really have an issue with those because those were never pitched to be outside of their specific campaigns. I do have an issue that the Tyrant is a waste and it's just wasting away and you can't use it as a nemesis anywhere else. So I do have issues with People of the Stars campaign. Not with the Survivors, obviously, but with that, I would like to use the Tyrant elsewhere. It's not the best nemesis fight, but I mean... So it's just dead content sitting there. Hopefully hopefully Campaigns of Death fixes that. The scouts, the strains, encounters, philosophy, etc. are all optional content, so it's fine that not everything ties to them. Yes, I agree 100%. It is all optional content. This person will probably never use any of these more than once just to try them out. None of them excite me. They also bloat and they do bloat the bookkeeping. I agree that the CC system is not something I would have done. I would have done it a lot easier, like it originally was, where it was just a card, where you just kind of like, oh, this person's going to be a tank or whatever it was, and then he showed that you just flip over the card, and now instead of doing your age milestones and then rolling on a chart when you hit the age milestones, this age milestone just gives you meat shield. This one gives you this disorder. The next one gives you this and plus whatever. It was literally a campaign tree, like a skill tree, like many games have, where you level up very fluid. It's not malleable at all. You just go down the line, maybe choose one or two different things, but you just go down the line and you make that person follow that philosophy. That's what it originally was supposed to be, which is what I originally wanted. So I will go into the Campaigns of Death thing again, or the Gambler's Chest philosophy system again with these Arc Survivors. And I'll show the original pitch of it. I know I showed the original updates of it and went through the whole thing, but... Campaigns of Death optional content adds variant rules and new content that you can add, but it's optional. With this in mind, I disagree that you need Campaigns of Death or Gambler's Chest or Campaigns of Death because the game has to have the additional content. Again, if I said that, I don't believe that. Obviously, I play Kingdom of Death the way it is now. I love it and I enjoy it, so I don't know why I would say that. These videos were of a different thing. They were just looking at Wave 4 and Wave 3. So I wasn't even reviewing the original stuff or the core game by itself. I think if you were to buy Kingdom of Death 1.0, that's still a good game. You could have fun with Kingdom of Death 1.0. You don't even need 1.5 to enjoy Kingdom of Death. So, it's the same step as saying someone buys the original 1.0 game, and then you'd be like, well, I'd try to buy 1.5 if you could. I would make that same recommendation. And now all I was saying was, if you already have 1.5, you should probably buy Gambler's Chest if you could. That's all I meant by it. One is just a massive new campaign with new systems. You can choose to add to other campaigns. There's about varying campaign formats with new additional content. Also, I thought First Hero was always Wave 4. Yeah, originally it was pitched to come with... If you saw the original, you can go look at the original campaign. It was included in the original things and it was supposed to deliver earlier. I forget exactly where it was mentioned Wave 3. If you get 1.6 and want new content, still recommend Gorm, Sunstar, Dragon King, Beetle Knight until Wave 4 lands. Yes. Assuming you can just play 1.6 with the current games and still have massive amounts of fun. I agree with that 100%. There's no need to buy any of these things. There's actually no need to buy any expansion ever. There's Kingdom of Death 1.5 will probably, if you're just a casual board gamer who just wants to play, you could... I've played People of Lantern without expansions, People of Lantern with expansions. and then people of the Lantern trying to go for the green armor. So People of the Lantern's fine campaign. Yeah, the game is fine. I have no complaints with the game. So, again, I guess I must have said that. People keep saying I said it, and that person's crazy. You should just ignore that person who said that. That was not my intent. Obviously, I feel that the original game is awesome as is, and I'm not saying you cannot enjoy the original game without Gambler's Chest, which is crazy because that would be saying that I hate the original game and I'm playing it and recording all these videos out of spite, I guess. Waiting for the Gambler's Chest to come out. But I've been playing the game for years out of spite. I don't know. So those are the end of the ones for this video. Let's go to video 4 now. Okay, here we are with video 4. Join hearing the story of Percival. Yeah. So there's been people who ask me about like I should cover more lore and stuff. I don't mind the lore. I know the lore of it. What I was mainly focusing on with Percival and going with the Gold Smoke Knight is there is a lot of stuff that is behind the Gold Smoke Knight that is never, ever, 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 ever talked about in the actual game. So it's not that I dislike lore or have problems with lore. I view that stuff as I'm a much bigger fan of storytelling and how it's told rather than I'm not saying that the lore behind the Gold Smoke Knight and the lore behind Percival is bad and all those things. It would just be a huge shame if the only way you learn that stuff is by Googling it. You should be able to just mention it just write it into your game. Same thing with the Gold Smoke Knight. I just wish there was something written into the game. You don't even need, I don't know, you just have a wanderer come to the settlement. It's the same thing that happens. I'm not saying the Gold Smoke Knight comes and talks to your campaign. I'm just saying there's that comic where, what's her name runs into her? Aya, the first survivor, runs into the Gold Smoke Knight. Just have her come by and mention it or something. Just something. There's plenty of instances in the game right now without even the wanderer system where people just come to the settlement for no reason, like the dark trader who just sells you a thong for some reason. Like, okay, just the same thing. Just have a simple event. Let's see. The Black Knight Showdown board. They've done at least part of these stuff developing the plastic Showdown board. Yep, I agree with that. I didn't mean for that to come off and as I say right here, I'm also sure it was super fun for people to play at with Gen Con. You really should consider going into Dungeon Terrain and making a new set of revenue streams for himself right there. So, revenue stream. The content, that dungeon looked awesome. He probably could sell that and give Drawer Before You run for its money. So, Pariah. I don't know. This one says I said Pariah wrong. If I said Priya, I don't know. Whatever. So I guess I might have said that wrong. Yes, right here in 3.14. This will be 3.14. This video, I'll call it that. This person. So I just linked to the. Okay, that's for the 4th video. Let's go to the 5th final video now. All right, here we are in the final comments. Let's go over this again. Asking about a podcast. Oh yeah, with the lore. So I just talked about lore. Yeah, I think the lore is great. I just don't think I would really want to cover it that much. I'm a much bigger fan of storytelling. So the only reason why I went into the lore, and there's all kinds of lore. If you want to Google Gold Smoke Knight, I actually think the lore of the Gold Smoke Knight is actually really good. How it gets corrupted and all the smoke, how it's, it could be tied to the Great City, could be tied to, like the entity and there's like a golden entity that probably, there's a lot of lore that's actually awesome about it. How the Watchers are corrupting the Stone Faces, or the Plane of Stone Faces. And that the Gold Smoke Knight's been fighting that corruption, and now it's like lost all of its sentience or its humanity. fighting this corruption. It slowly got corrupted, and now it's just a mindless zombie wandering these planes, destroying these lanterns, the final lanterns, and sussing out these watcher pits and everything, and destroying every watcher, and destroying everything around it, and like scraping them from existence and everything. And that's all cool. It's all I was not trying to say that the lore of the game is bad. I'm saying that lore is fine, but if you don't use it in any meaningful way, it's moot. That's all I meant by all that. See. Yes, Inverted Mountain sounds awesome. I probably will back it the very next time I can. I don't know why I didn't, but Inverted Mountain sounds awesome. I just hope that I'm just really confused on why there's so much stuff in it. It seems like there's a lot of just jam-packed stuff, and I don't know what's going to happen with it. Oh yeah, so this person talks about it here. The same thing I just said. I believe the Lord of the Goldsmith Knights. He was a servant of the entity. It was usurped by a new entity, by a scribe. I don't know what it is. So he's been trying to kill anything related to that entity, and he's going around snuffing out lanterns, or reason why I keep saying lantern. He's going around snuffing out final lanterns. So I think the reason why you carry around that this is just speculative. So the final lantern, I think, probably gives off that same like protective aura that the Watcher gave off that protected you from the settlement. That's probably why you're required to take it out on hunts with you. Probably gives like a super faint aura that at least the survivors could sleep and make camps around while they go and hunt something, to at least give them somewhat protection. And I think that the reason why you need to go out with it and hunt, because that way if your hunt party gets killed, I know narratively everything comes back because technically, narratively, the scouts are bringing it all back, but as it is right now, if you were to die out in the Plain of Stone Faces with that lantern, it would just fall into the ground, eventually just sink into the ground, and probably just like it's like a seed that would spread more watchers. That's how I envision it. All that is super cool lore. Again, I don't think he's a bad writer. I don't think any of those things. I have a problem more with the execution and what he's doing with the lore. And then when he just rewrites things and says that there's plenty of interviews that you can see on YouTube from years back, like 2016, 2017, where he's like, oh, I have this world all planned out and everything. But then he constantly retcons his own lore because I don't even know why. I don't know why he bothers retconning it. He's not going to use it. I already know that it's not going to be used. You can see that it's happening again, like I said, within that timeline of the Gambler's Chest. There's no Kingsman there anymore, which there should be because the king is finally there. The king's a quarry. The king used to be a singular entity. Now it's not. Or I don't even know. The hand and all those things, they all got retconned. So, yeah. Don't think you are correct about the dragon goblin. That is the Sparrow King pretending to be the... Yeah. That when I read that whole thing, I meant it kind of as a joke because it just reads like a madman. It just contradiction after it's just weird. The whole pitch there is weird. I don't even know. I just read it. Just read it aloud. Same thing with I know I said one of the scout gear reads weird. It's just because I read it aloud and it just reads weird. Grammatically, it is functionally correct. Grammatically speaking, there's no inconsistencies. It's just when you read it, it's weird, like a tongue twister. You shouldn't write things that sound weird when you read them aloud. It should be more precise. So, yeah, this says you seem so mad and always have a negative attitude. I don't want to have it mean to come off like that. It's not mad about it. I enjoy Kingdom Death to a large degree. Let's see. Yeah, my intention is not to come off as a rant. It was just lighthearted jabs at his pitching and his writing style and things. More so, well, now let me reopen up the, we're going to talk about Gambler's Chest one more time. And stuff that I didn't originally say, and why I'm excited for the philosophy system. and why I didn't go into some things. So let me now open up that real quick, and we'll talk one more time about this. Here we are, back to the Kickstarter page. For the last time, here it is, the original Philosophy Death pitch. This is right on the main campaign page. The Philosophy of Death system is a new game system that is part of the Kingdom Death Monster Advanced. It's the working title game book that comes in the Gambler's Chest. So this is where I was just talking about even all the responses and comments and things, where I honestly believe that what you're going to get in the Gambler's Chest is this Kingdom Death Monster Advanced Rulebook, just like the main core rulebook, and that will just include the People of the Dreamer campaign. That's how it was pitched. It could have changed. I don't know. I've never seen it confirmed or denied. I asked on the Lantern's Reign Discord, on the Kingdom Death Discord, whatever it's called, Lantern's Reign Facebook people, asking if I'm wrong about this, and he did say that it's tied to the Watch People of the Dreamer, but no one seems to have said yes or no. So, and again, this is an optional rule system. Again, yeah, everyone's right. If I made it sound like it was going to be not optional just because I recommended it as the first expansion that you buy, that's wrong. I didn't mean that. I meant that it sounds like it's going to be one of the best expansions, and I would recommend it to be one of the first ones you buy because it adds so much and because it has a great value over the other expansions. Not meaning to say that it's better than the whole game and it's a must, otherwise the whole game is terrible. That is not... I believe there is a huge thing that I don't know when this started happening, but I've noticed that sometimes, even when I talk about movies with people or games with people, that if you say that, oh, I liked this movie, it means that it's the best movie you've ever seen in your entire life. And every other movie, when you compare it, because you said you liked it, every other movie is now crap compared to that movie. Or if you said you disliked the movie, it means it's the worst movie you have ever seen in your whole life. No. There's varying degrees of comments when people say things. So when I said that I feel that it might be necessary moving forward, I didn't mean that every other part of the game now is bad because I said this is good. No. I don't feel that way. Kingdom Death is by itself great. If you were to buy Kingdom Death right now, you would be happy with it. Even if you bought 1.0. If you bought 1.5, you'd be happy with it. If you never got 1.6, you'd be happy with it. So I hope that it's not coming off like that. So philosophies guide how a survivor develops, how they level up, and can affect what they learn from battling monsters. Each philosophy culminates in an epiphany that can be reached, which grants a lasting bonus to the entire settlement. Now, see, he spelled epiphany correctly here. That's how you spell epiphany. Which grants a lasting bonus to the entire settlement, provided the survivor remains alive. This is different. So, this is unlike a mastery, where if a survivor dies, you lose the mastery, you still have the innovation. So, that's new and unique. I've often even said this in some of my campaign that I'm playing through on this channel, that I wish there were things that you could do in the settlement phase with survivors other than just spend endeavors and having survivors literally attribute nothing to the rolls or anything. They're just there. But with this system, it appears that at least survivors are actually acting like they're living there in the settlement, where, they do things, where they could teach each other stuff. The way it is now, you could have the only thing that I do in my current season is I just have the one survivor do everything because she's got otherworldly luck. But there should be varying degrees of that sprinkled throughout the fighting arts and things. You should get people who are better at doing Lantern Oven. You should get people who are better at going out and collecting herbs and stuff. All those things, not everything needs to just... The fighting arts don't need to be based completely around the showdown. That's why Sculpture and Otherworldly Luck are so powerful because they're literally the only way of having any varying degree of skill or varying variance, like between one survivor doing something and another survivor doing something. Otherwise, they're all just blank slates, just attributing nothing. There should be skill systems. So that is why I really like the philosophies. I'll get into it more here. And here's what I've been really talking about, which I regret not including this. Through extended playtesting of Kingdom Death Monster 1.31, the current edition of the game when this campaign launched, we found too much of the focus remained on individual survivors. I don't know about that, but whatever. Instead of simply stripping them of their power, which isn't very fun, I agree, we decided to head in a different direction and give them touchdown points. With the philosophy of death system, when a survivor is having a good run, instead of continuing onward until their ultimate end, they can stop and share what they've learned by granting a lasting bonus to the settlement. This is great. This is why I love the philosophy system and why I want it in other campaigns. There's even more, which I'll get into, which I just didn't talk about before, because there's been no information. This is literally the very first day one pitch. This wasn't even a roll. This was just included when he talked about the gambler's chest at all, right on the campaign thing. And it's been stark updates to the other stuff I'm about to mention. Although this seems like a footnote, this system completely overhauls the current fighting arts, so it does do that, and replaces them with new cards that can be leveled up at the cost of insight a survivor has earned following their philosophy, which is awesome and great. Which is why I want to be able to use it in other systems, and it's just good that survivors actually do something. Where leveling someone up might make something better. The way it is right now, you just blindly get fighting arts, and even like he said, this is a problem with the main game. See, through extended playtesting of Kingdom Death Monster 1.3, that means he found this as being like a weird fault. The fact that you just draw things at random, and survivors, once someone gets good, you just focus on that one survivor. It's like, oh, this guy drew Immortal, this is our new main character. Like, that's it. That's not even a fighting art, this is a disorder, but you know what I'm saying. It still remains the same. The point is the same. It's just whatever, you just get one individual. Same thing with sculpture. Right? The reason why sculpture is so good is because you can actually give someone something. It's like, oh, good, I don't need to draw randomly from that deck. What's the worst thing that can happen? You get Saga, and you level up your survivors when they're born, and you get some fighting art, and you could just get garbage and crap, and then you never use that survivor ever. Or you just toss them to the butcher to get killed when the butcher comes. Just toss them to gain the king's curse or whatever. It's just so random. You're just fighting against the system. And it gets worse when you go after green armor and things, because those require certain philosophies or certain fighting arts and certain disorders to get them. To unlock certain secret fighting arts, you need to have had prior fighting arts and disorders. It's the same thing with the Inverted Mountain campaign. When I was talking about the Inverted Mountain campaign, saying that your innovations will be dependent on fighting arts, with this, at least you could guide them towards something. So it's just like, all right, I want to get a lantern oven pretty quick. How can I do that? Well, how about I have this person become like a fire or blacksmith philosophy or something like that, right? Then at least I can gauge when it is I'm going to get the lantern oven, or it could just be total randomness. Now, I'm not saying that total randomness is bad. I'm saying it's enjoyable. But right here, he knows it's a problem with 1.13 or 1.31. It's a problem of the game that you were looking to fix, right? You've admitted right here that Kingdom Death 1.31 had a problem. So this is a fix to the core game. That's why I was saying that Gambler's Chest might be necessary moving forward. If he honestly believes that this philosophy system fixes something of the core game, it means he might make Wave 4 expansions, also use it. And I feel it's just like sculpture. Now, here's another thing that is an oversight when you talk about the 1.6 pack. So with 1.6, he felt that the problem with the antelope was that Barber Surgeon is tied to it. which is a problem. That is a problem. But it's not the only problem, right? There's more problems. One of those problems is cooking. Cooking in general is pointless. If you remove the white lion and you remove screaming antelope, it's pointless. Cooking gets more and more pointless the more you go away from the core monsters, those core three: screaming antelope, white lion, and to an extent phoenix. Cooking becomes more and more of a problem. So if there was some system that you had where you could just add a card to every single expansion, some kind of food system. Oh wait, there is, because it was pitched for the Gambler's Chest. The food innovation tree, right? So here's the food innovation tree, which will be in the Gambler's Chest. I just didn't mention it because he's never talked about this ever. But this fixes a huge problem with the core game. Every time you add an expansion, cooking becomes less and less powerful and less useful. There's a whole mess of things that you could do with each expansion, that you could cook and make new meals. You don't even need to, in essence, you don't even need to make new recipes. You just replace the Screaming Antelope recipe, the one that gives you +1 permanent evasion, with whatever node 2. Just all node 2s have that, and that'd be fine. At least then cooking isn't pointless. So here's the food innovation tree. 5 new innovations that make development of your settlement even harder sets of choices. Departing survivors enjoy the finest meal the settlement can prepare for them. They may claim the clothed and satiated armor set bonus if they meet the requirements listed on the card. So then you add food consequences to the deck. And then you get 4 more things, right? Now you can guide your settlement's food culture and influence how new generations of survivors' brains develop. Want to get your learn on? Better eat right. So the question is dash, surge, or eat. This also implies that there'll be a new survival action for eating. 5 food innovation cards, more pages in the Advanced Kingdom Death Monster rulebook. Food innovations integrate with the philosophy system. See, so these food innovations are also going to be tied to that philosophy system. And this fundamentally fixes the other problem with the antelope and with the white lion and with cooking in general. If you remove the white lion in its current state right now, if this was never addressed and you can't take the philosophy systems into any other campaign and you just continue to use the 1.5 rulebook, when you say you put the Gorm as your prologue, if there is one, or you use the Crimson Croc, so you use Crimson Croc in the Lantern because you drew that as a strain system for your prologue. Then you use, Flower Knight as your node 2. I don't even know. What's another node 2? With Spidicules as your node 2. Your node 3, you use some other new one. What's a new one that's node 3? The Ram, I think. And then would you innovate cooking in that? No, you wouldn't even touch cooking because cooking doesn't do anything in the current system the way the rules are written right now. Cooking is a dead innovation in that game. This fixes that. This would let you have recipes for every single expansion that gets added, which is awesome, which is why, again, I really like the philosophy system. Food and the techniques and tools around them have influenced and guided cultures around the world. It's extremely exciting to add this into Kingdom Death. I am super psyched to work on this. So, again, this is a fundamental problem with the game in itself, in its current state, which the philosophy system wants to fix. So, why I called it a double-edged sword earlier. If Wave 4 really should include this stuff moving forward, it should take note of all these new things, because if it is improving the core game, which is another reason as to why I said the Gambler's Chest might be an essential expansion, because you might need to get all these rule cards. It's possible. Not unlikely, not likely, but maybe. It's also the Herb Gatherer. See? Herb Gatherer, plus Gathering Philosophies. I know I've mentioned this in one of my seasons, how I wished, like I was just saying, that you, like in D&D, you have skills, that aren't all combat related, like diplomacy and things like that. You can actually do stuff and roll your dice and get bonuses to non-combat stuff. This would be awesome when you have people go out and scavenge for lanterns, scavenge for, Heat Wave, one of the worst settlement events. If someone could actually, make Heat Wave better and more tolerable, or get better lanterns when you go into the exhausted lantern horns, stuff like that. If you actually had someone who's really good at doing what they're supposed to do, if they had a philosophy around, like blacksmithing, like I said, but not, just for scrap smelting, or a scrapsmith, or an herb gatherer, or a miner. When you actually put the mining on there, that maybe they get bonuses to actually getting it, because most of the time it's just like, meh, you're not even going to want to roll on there because you could just die. So again, this gives you an herb gatherer miniature, unique base gathering philosophy, fighting arts, and gear cards. There's going to be gear that adds +1 to rolls when doing herb stuff. So imagine if you just got like, if you were like, I'm going to endeavor with this herb gatherer, just the same way I do with the overwhelming luck currently, otherworldly luck. I'll just endeavor with these people because they have a 10% better chance of getting it. Every time you do something like this, it makes makes the settlement feel better. It's now the way it is. I don't even care who I'm doing. It's hard to even track who's doing the innovations, because if I'm not doing it with the person with otherworldly luck, who cares? Literally, who cares who's doing it? As long as they don't die, who cares? Even if they do die, who cares? I'm probably just going to do it with someone who drew from the fighting art deck terribly, or has a terrible disorder, right? That's what the philosophies will fix that. It's not, and I'm not saying it's broken. See, sometimes when I say it will fix that, people assume that, oh, he says the game needs to be fixed, therefore 1.5 is a terrible game. No, it's mitigating randomness is what you do in Kingdom Death. In this system, any system, Inverted Mountain moving forward, where you have innovations based on drawing from a fighting art, something that at least will give you a guide. So with with Echoes of Death, you get Backstabber, right? Backstabber makes daggers really cool. If you can increase your threat range for your perfect hit range, but you need to be secretive. You need to be secretive and have Backstabber. It's ridiculous. And you need to hope that you get it on a dagger. In the current system right now, you go, okay, this person's secretive. I got it, right? I got this person with secretive. Now I can make sculpture, I can put backstab on it, then I can give them backstab, and then I can start making them a dagger person. So many extra steps, right? Wouldn't it just be nice if someone was a dagger person who had the philosophy, you were just like, this person's going down dagger mastery. As they're working down their dagger philosophy, I might be able to just take backstabber. Then that person could take a time out, teach it to a new survivor who's secretive, therefore I can have backstab, secretive, and he'll be working on his dagger via shared experience or something. He said there's going to be endeavors where they can talk and share with each other, so at least it feels like I'm getting to play. Sometimes with Kingdom Death, it's just like, oh, what's with the... perfect example. I had my tank, perfectly good tank. They had Rhythm Chaser, I don't know what they had. Rhythm Chaser and something else that gave them like, or the one that gives you 7 bleed or whatever. Oh, and she was born, when I aged her up randomly, she got like 2 evasion just from aging up and doing bold and stuff. So she was like a +3 evasion. I was like, yes, I'm going to have her as my tank forever or whatever, right? And then just randomly, just here, when I got a level up, I got a terrible fighting art on her. And it's just like, oh, this makes her bad for tanking. This is like counterintuitive for tanking. I forget which one it was. Or it was a disorder or something. Disorder that made her... Not saying that disorders should be random, not necessarily. They should be story driven, but whatever. I'm just saying, when you draw from a deck, it just makes you feel bad. Or you just draw, someone's born, and then you draw from a deck and you're like, oh, wow, this person has an awesome fighting art. I hope they get something else that's cool. Or what was it what I did with the current season? Oh, with Murder. Murder's great because you can actually make someone good. It's like, man, I can't wait to get Murder so I can actually get someone good so I can give them... That's how I got otherworldly luck on the person, because you just get to choose a fighting art. It's like, wow, I can't wait for my survivors to start murdering each other with the murder event. I love the murder event. That way I can actually, decide, have some input on what's going on with my survivors. That's why I like the philosophy system. I'm not saying the game is broken, and I'm not saying that randomness is bad. I'm saying that it would be nice. I'm not even saying that you could gain these philosophies at pure random, but over the course of a 30-year campaign, it would be great if you would slowly gain control, right? Like, it's all random for the first 5 or 6 years, but then once you start playing, you're like, okay, this person's going to start doing it. I'm just going to get him 2 or 3 more levels up. then I'll have him teach it to her, and then she'll be my new dagger person moving forward. But I just need to get through this first initial randomness. Now I've got my base built. Now I'm going to start work. I've got that foundation laid. Now I'm going to start going. It just feels so much better. So that was it with the herb gathering. Would be great to have the same exact thing with herb gathering and mining. Actually have people do stuff. You could have scout philosophies where someone's actually really good at scouting because they've been doing it their whole life. Things like that. Let me just open up the timeline real quick and I'll explain why I didn't go in on the monsters and the CC system. Okay, so here we are again. This is the Gambler's Chest timeline, which people were talking about in comments like they said. So, again, I could have mentioned it, but it wasn't confirmed here, but here's what the first meal is one of the first. So you get first Crimson Day. I talked about that. Returning Ark Survivors, I talked about that. But first meal is probably how you start off the food innovation tree, which would be great moving forward. So you could add food innovation tree to every campaign. And I would really hope that all the food innovations would be added, or some sort of food innovation is added for every monster quarry moving forward. So at least you can cook with them. So here's the Butcher level 1, and then where is it? Here. So here are the things people talked about that I just didn't really talk about. So you have the Lamplighter here, which is first time the survivors are defeated, which I don't know what that will do. Interesting. Here is first time you depart, you do the Death Pact. That's for the scouts, so that means you could use scouts in any single game you wanted. Right here is a survivor reaches 3 understanding, which you get true craftsmanship, which is probably a hint towards introducing the philosophy system. However, returning Ark survivors is supposed to be that. So I don't know. This just probably replaces bold and was it bold and insight? But you can never tell. So I don't know what this true craftsmanship will be, but still interesting. So, yes. So here's the reverse side of it with the collective cognition, where there's all these milestones for all these different things. So much of them going all the way up to here. Here's where people were talking about the amount of CC you gain for fighting level 3 Nemesis, which makes the whistle even better because, you might want to blow the whistle, fight a Nemesis monster, get a lot more CC. Here's where they say the level 6. So the quarry goes up to level 4, level 5, level 6. So he has not said anything about level 6 monsters. That's why I didn't mention it. I know it says 3+, but he hasn't even mentioned level 4 outside of like Tom and the Goblin, I think, and the Screaming God. I think he said we're going to have level 4 versions of them. So he hasn't even mentioned level 5 or level 6. So if you look back here, right, for the timeline goes up to level 30, or Lantern Year 39. Right, he hasn't said the game's going to go to Lantern Year 39. There's been no instance of that. I think the original game even went up to 40. But again, those were just there, just to fill out the sheet. I don't know. Doesn't necessarily mean. So when you look at this, it's not like, oh look, it's going to be a 39-year campaign. I don't instantly think that. Right? It's kind of the same with this here. That's why I didn't mention it. Oh look, level 6 monsters confirmed. Well. Eventually, maybe. I don't think he hasn't said anything like that, but yeah, there's room for it here, I guess. Maybe there are. I don't know. He hasn't mentioned it. Who knows? Same thing here with so that's why I just didn't mention those things. I just was just like this is where it ends. God hand. He hasn't said, even hinted to anything besides for Ivory Dragon going beyond 35. So. I don't know. I kind of just looked at this as future-proofing. Look, here it is. 5s and 6 may be a thing eventually, but it wasn't confirmed. So that's why I just omitted the things. Yes, people are right. There it is right there, the level 6s. So when I replied asking if he actually had confirmed it, I just wanted to know if he actually had confirmed it. And I know, yes, it does say 3+ on those things. So awesome. So again, hopefully, everyone enjoys this one. Again, it's going to sound a little bit ranty, but it's not my intent. It's a combination of passion and real fun enjoyment. I'm so glad so many people commented. I wanted to include as many people as I could when I did my comment responses, It really is an awesome thing. I can't believe the amount of people who comment, and I always do encourage people to do so. This is something that I don't do as much as other people do. I've never had done this kind of freeform reaction content before. Normally, like I had said, I do it. I introduce a topic, people respond to all this stuff, and then I reply to their comments the next episode. That's what I wanted to do here. So hopefully people don't mind that I show all their names when I'm doing all the comments, or I'm assuming, right? You'd leave a comment because you wanted me to see it or something, right? So I'm assuming you'd be okay with me showing comments, but if people hate that I talk about comments, I won't do it anymore. So hopefully this cleared up some of the stuff. I understand there were flaws in the words that I used, and that's fine. That's why I'm open for debate. Debate is healthy, and I love hearing other people's reasoning and pointing out my flaws. And I 100% agree and retract every statement if I implied that the current state of Kingdom Death is a bad game. If I came off as saying that, that is not true whatsoever. 1.0 is fine. 1.15 is fine. 1.6 is fine. You don't need any expansions ever to enjoy any game of Kingdom Death. I just wanted to say that I feel strongly that Gambler's Chest will be one that will be recommended as a must. However, all these systems could be terrible, and then it might not be. So I would need to play them first. But as it is right now, I think the food thing is awesome. I think the scout system, everything is. I don't think I understand when people say it adds bloat, and yeah, it does. But I think it's an okay amount of bloat. I'm willing to take some bloat to gain more control and get less random. So, again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for commenting. It's amazingly humbling, the amount of people who commented. Sorry that if this comes off as like a fast-talking, not getting to the point of what, or missing the point of what your comment actually meant. I tried to interpret it the best I could. But again, thank you so much for watching. So very humbling. And I'll see you in the next episode. Or Lantern Year.